Welcome, folks, to Eye on the Illini. This is Mike Kegley with Kedrick Prince. We'll have Brad Sturdy coming in a little bit later as he gets out of the locker room. I think the headline tonight, Ked, is Illinois wins 89-70 in a game that a lot of us thought was going to be closer, and a game that we were worried that not having Kylan Boswell and the opportunity of potentially having David Coit go totally nuts on Illinois was a big concern. But Illinois did a good job in a 25-4 run in the first half. Really kind of put this game in. Ked, you said it last time. Sometimes these Illini games get pretty boring because they're just taking care of business and taking teams out of it. Did you think they did that tonight?
I was impressed tonight, but I'm not surprised. I'm really not. I don't mean this in the negative way, and I don't want anybody to take it that way, and I don't. And the people who subscribe to our site know and understand how much I think of Kylan Boswell and his family and what it means to him to be a part of this team. But if there was one player, only one player that out of the guys that are playing, he would probably be the guy that they could. I don't want. They're not going to get away with it, but they could get a pass from it if that makes any sense. So, it was a great game. I'm not surprised, like I said, at the outcome. This was due because Maryland has basically owned Illinois. This was a great performance, a good bounce back performance. I thought they played hard, and each game, Mike, this team surprises me more and more. They're getting better and better, and it's okay to say that they're good. I mean, they're not going to win every game. They've won 8 games in a row, the first time in the Brad Underwood era. So that's all really good.
Yeah, I think it was surprising how effective they were. At least I thought there was a consistency there in the team's performance. And let's give it up to Stojakovic, who played good defense, was really hitting the three ball, which he is not especially adept at or known for doing. And I thought Stojakovic really kind of led the way for this Illini team. And there was some really good supporting cast play as well.
Mike, the supporting cast was great. And I know we're just jumping into this podcast this evening. My player of the game was Stojakovic, and it wasn't his offense. It really wasn't. I could have gone a lot of ways. You could have went with Merkovic, and he was another good candidate. I thought for the first time in a very long time, Thomas Bisic looked like himself. Blocking, trying to block shots, jumping to go get a rebound. He looked really good. But the reason why Stojakovic gets the player of the game for me tonight is going to be obviously what everybody's going to be thinking about the defense, the defensive job that he did on David Coit. That was extremely impressive. And I guess if there was a negative part, Stojakovic has brought into the team, which is really important. I love the fact that he has, but I think he could have done this all season. And I know when he came to Illinois, I was one of the lucky guys to interview him really early after he committed. And he talked about the team aspect, and I think he's kind of, I don't want to say he's, just deferring to his teammates, but you can tell how talented he is. And I think now that Kylan is out, you're going to see a different Stojakovic. You're going to see a different Merkovic. You're going to see guys really step up. And the coach said that. Jake Davis, I've been a fan of his forever. Every time he puts the ball in the basket, my thing is to the people around me, Jake from State Farm. I love that. I think that's great. I've been a fan of his, and you guys have known that because I think he's more of a consistent shooter. And he rebounded tonight, something that a lot of colleagues seem to think that's a flaw of his. So impressive. This is a really good basketball team.
Yeah, and I thought it was a team effort. And let's go talk a little bit about the stats since we can kind of let people touch base on that. Of course, you find that you're out there and you've got quite a bit of performance there where you had Merkovic with 15 points and 9 rebounds, so he almost got a Big Ten double-double. Stojakovic 30 and 9, again another guy close to it. Tomislav 9 and 7. Jake Davis 12 and 4. Wagler 13 and 7, along with 8 assists. I don't know anybody who stocks up stats more quietly than he does, because you're talking really was pretty close to a triple double, and it just manages to creep up on you. Big Z, the Rocky Balboa of the team, was 1 point and 2 boards. Petrovic didn't score tonight, had a rebound. Lee had 3. Humrickhouse had 6. Obviously, Red, Fagimi, and Jaxtis were in there, and a couple boards for Fagimi, and Jaxtis got a board. So it was good to see that, and more importantly, as you look across the statistics, they still held Maryland to 40%, even though you had some guys in the game late that don't normally get onto the court. Illinois was 38-31 in 3-point percentage. Free throws, Illinois was 28 for 20 versus 8 for 16. Neither team was particularly good there tonight. Turnovers 7-5. Illinois had a couple over there. Points off of turnovers, Maryland won that stat 9-8. Total rebounds, Illinois as usual dominated 47-31. 15 offensive rebounds to 9. Second chance points 20-13. Bench points 41-10. There's a big advantage for Minnesota, or excuse me, Maryland, although that shows you the starters didn't have the best night that you could have. Points in the paints 26-24 Maryland. Points 5-2 Illinois. Blocks 5-0 Illinois. Steals 3-2 Maryland. Assists 17-11. And times tied was 3. The lead changed 7 times. Illinois, 30 minutes and 28 seconds. Once they took control, they did not let go. And I thought that was a little bit of a killer instinct that we haven't seen consistently from Illinois teams. I thought it was fantastic, but I didn't know what you thought, Ked.
Well, real quick, you talked about Keaton Wagler. I'm going to go to him. He didn't shoot the ball particularly well tonight, and I'm kind of glad in a roundabout way because he has been Mr. Consistent all season. He was 4 of 12, I believe. The reason I said I'm glad, we have to enjoy this Maryland win this evening, but Saturday, we all know what's coming and what's on the schedule, and so hopefully he'll bounce back from a shooting performance. But you're right, he's a stat sheet stuffer, and from a statistical standpoint, I think Illinois, they started out, they were shooting the ball, I believe, 42%, something like that, I believe, from 3, 43%. Then they tailed off in the end, which is okay. I mean, they ended up going 15 for 40, but it's a still good performance. The free throw line, 71% kind of surprised me because Keaton Wagler is an 85, 86% free throw shooter. And tonight he ended up going 4 for 6, and I was kind of surprised by that. But overall, it was a really, really good performance by him as well. My concern going into the game, and I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to jinx it, was I thought when Colin Boswell went out, he was going to try to do too much. And he didn't. He played the same way he's played all season.
Ked, we got a question for you, and I'll put that up there.
Here's my concern. I mean, and this is just one man's opinion. Until tonight, until this evening, I was never concerned about him until I am concerned about him now. There was a situation tonight where Brad Underwood had Andrei Stojakovic playing point guard rather than Mahalo. It was Stojakovic, it was Jake Davis, I think it was Ben Humrickhouse, I think it was Tom Slav, and maybe the David or Ben, if I didn't mention him already. He's not going to play a lot. I see comments about missing a defensive assignment. I can go on about a lot of things, about a lot of players. You can. You really and truly can. You can see on the sideline, he clapped his hands a few times. The kid is hurt. He's beat down. He's just not who he's not confident in himself right now. And until tonight, I wasn't worried, but he missed a shot, which is fine. Mike, you and I both said it. I'd like to see him play more. Yeah, he misses a shot. Let him play through it because he is excellent at getting to the basket, and that's what's tough. So I don't know. We can all. I knew, and I said it on our message board who I thought was going to start tonight. Maybe it was a leak if you want to call it that, but it is what it is. And I called it right, and it was a good move. But if he's not getting a lot of minutes at that position, that's going to be tough. Now, here's what's bad about that. If they're going to take that route and you're not going to have Keaton on the floor to help handle the basketball, you're going to have a hard time if teams get up in you and press, because Stojakovic, as good as he is, that's not his natural position. So am I concerned after tonight? Yes, I am.
I think he still may have his opportunities, but they're just going to be fewer and farther between. And the thing that's challenging is Brad Underwood's fairly clear communicator. And so it is surprising to me that Petrovic hasn't taken the defense more seriously, because I don't think it's a mystery that that's how you get onto the floor. And the other part is you watch some of the guys who have made it onto the floor, and their defense has been a key component of that.
Mike, can I say something about that, please, if you don't mind?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I'm really defending Petrovic right now. And I'm not criticizing you, but your point is well taken. You're 100% right. If you want to get on the floor to play under Brad Underwood, you have to play defense. So why isn't Brandon Lee playing then? Because he plays defense.
Yeah.
He does.
But
there's something else.
You got to do it all, obviously. And I think in the end, if you're going to be a one-dimensional player, you probably have a better – it's interesting because Underwood doesn't like guys on the floor who can't shoot from outside. And he doesn't like guys on the floor who don't play defense. So if I'm a player, I'm going to be out there jacking up a few threes, seeing what I can do to keep the threes, looking good. And the other thing I'm going to be doing is playing defense no matter what happens. And that's the part that's frustrating, because, as you know, you can't just automatically say I'm going to make threes. But you can't automatically say I'm going to put my heart into defense. You may not always be perfect, but that effort level shows through. And when you're not doing it, that sticks out.
Oh, it does. But again, to me, I just really want to see him get a longer leash. I guess that's what I would like to see. You can see the talent is there. There hasn't been a team yet, whether it be Alabama, whether it be Tennessee, Maryland, that he cannot get to the basket on. That's something that you can't teach. So I wouldn't give up on him if it was me. But
yeah, and in fairness, he's had some bad luck, because
yes, he has.
You could also say there's not a team that he hasn't been able to get in and miss a layup against.
Yeah, I mean, because you're right, he really has.
Yeah, and because you're talking like literally a half a roll, and those things go in, but you're judged on your results. They're a missed shot, and then the worst part is if you don't hustle back on defense because you're frustrated the shot rolled out, or you're frustrated because you feel like you got hit and it didn't get called. That's certainly problematic.
Or you're gonna come out of the game because you missed the shot because it didn't go in. And
well, Underwood's not a big guy on taking guys out of games for missing.
No, not right away, but a few trips on the court. Even to go back to the Minnesota game, he was done. I'm just a fan of the kids, and that's what it is. Something else here, and I don't want this to go past. Fedigator made a comment to me, and when the game started tonight against Maryland, I got frustrated. I'm sick of seeing teams play zone against Illinois, and to me, they're scared. They're scared to me, and I don't blame them. It's a good coaching move. Now, Purdue plays a zone, then the cold weather was supposed to be this weekend. I think it's going to look like Hawaii. They never play zone. They are a man principal team. I'm not saying that they won't, because I don't want to make myself look stupid on Saturday. But it's frustrating to see all these teams play zone against Illinois, because Illinois can shoot the basketball. But I think teams are going to make them prove it. This isn't last year's Illinois team. And so last year you could get away with that. You really can. And I'm going to start something here. I'm kind of curious to see what your thought is, Mike, and what our listeners thinking. Maryland, don't get mad at me for saying this, but I think Maryland's kind of dirty a little bit. I really do. I think they're dirty. I think they took cheap shots, and I know Zonomir, that's why he was giving them. Not that it was right, because I didn't think that was smart on his part. You could see the chirping going on. There's always a history there. If you go back a few years ago when Tim Anderson was there and Reese, and them beating Illinois all the time. I'm not a fan, and I'm not the only guy. There's a lot of people texting and sending me messages thinking what the heck's up, but there's some dirtiness there. I mean, and Maryland played hard. Don't get me wrong, and I thought that was great. It was good to see after the game the conversation between both coaches because you could tell it was friendly, and I know he's given a lot of good compliments to Illinois, but there's some dirtiness between those two teams, and it's definitely not something that I like.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. Buzz is a good coach, and I know you're trying to get things together there, and their NIL program hasn't been as aggressive as what they would like. But I was surprised. I actually was. That's about as bad of a Maryland team as we've seen in a while. Now, I do realize again it's going to take time to get everything fixed. You can't just walk in and wave a magic wand. But boy, they've got to figure out what they're doing from a standpoint of the standpoint of NIL and stuff because that team is not good.
No, Mike, they're not very good. But I'll tell you what, you hit it on the head, your last comment. Coach Cignetti's the guy to prove you could get it done, but they threw money. But they put money there. You got to do it. But at some point, like I said to you, if you can't beat people playing dirty and taking cheap shots, somebody made a comment about Z. I don't hide this. I mean, you can all have the player you like to cover or you like to root for. Zonovan is probably my most loved guy on that basketball team. I was upset with what he did tonight, but I'm not mad at him. I mean, it didn't cost him the game. I started thinking, and I forgot this isn't football. I'm thinking, what are you doing? You're going to be sitting out, the next game. Obviously that's not the case, but he doesn't back down. And I do think this team needs a little bit of that. You can see him on the bench. I do like it. And what was even more impressive, Coach Underwood he was upset about it, but he didn't embarrass him and rip him a new one. So I like that about this team needs a little bit of that. And I tell you who else, I mentioned this at the beginning of this podcast. It was really cool to see Stojakovic come out. He looked like he was on a mission. They looked focused tonight. This is Purdue losing to UCLA opens up a new game for them. Illinois has some tough road games between. They go to Nebraska, they go to Michigan State, and I think I'm missing somebody else that they have. But there's 3 ranked teams that they have to go on the road to play. They need to try to win one of those. They need to try to get one of those wins. Again, Purdue, Nebraska, and Michigan State. If they can steal one of those, and I'm going to tell you the place where I think they're going to win it. And no, I'm not drinking because I don't drink. I think if there's a spot where they can win it, I think it's going to be at Nebraska. I think they beat Nebraska at home if Sanford doesn't have score 4,000 points against Illinois. So I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's key. They want to be able to grab one of those games, and they're going to have that. That's going to be their attitude. Is we're gonna go up there. We're going to go and win one of those. But team. No, they're 18-0. I've got maybe I've got Indiana thing, but I bought into Indiana as a football team much quicker than I am buying into Nebraska as a basketball power.
Me too. They're not going to go, Mike. They're going to lose a game at some point. They're going to get. They play Illinois again. Hopefully, they'll get Michigan again, or Michigan or Michigan State. They're good. Tip your hat to them. But I don't see that happening. They're going to get a great seed because of who they're beating. But this is not the Indiana situation. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, and so let's go real quick into the Illinois stats. The plus minus, I think again people like to look at that, and we will see as you look at it. You got Merkovich at 19, Stojakovic 28. Tomislav, who you mentioned is playing more like Tomislav, 26. Jake Davis, 15. Keaton Wagler, typical Wagler, 27. And of course, Brandon Lee, -8. Rickhouse, 11. So that'll drive the Rickhouse fans crazy. -7 for Red. Blake was at -8. -11 for Jason. Big Z was up 7, and Petrovic was -4. So, but you're seeing that team floating at a 1.391 points per possession. Again, if we started off the evening, if you looked, I didn't have a chance to check it, but Fedigator, Ken Palm number 8 for Illinois, number 1 offensively, 21 defensively, and Torvik, number 5, number 2 offensively, and number 24 defensively. So I think it's clear that you have seen Brad Underwood, start to do the emphasis on the defense. And of course, we've seen with what's going on with Tyler and the offense, that's not been an issue. But when the defense plays well, this team can hang with just about anybody.
Mike, offense is never going to be the problem with this team. I don't think so, because if they don't shoot the ball outside, they're able to go inside. They're able to attack, and we talked about post play. I know Griff mentioned this, on our podcast multiple times. They do score inside, but they just don't have that post up game. Merkovic, I think, does a really good job of getting down there on the block. I just saw a different kid. To me, if there was 2 kids tonight that I thought played, 2.5, because Tommy's the other one. He looked better, but I thought Merkovic and Stojakovic looked like, hey, Colin Boswell's out. We can't come out here and go through the motions anymore. I'm really, really curious to see how Saturday goes.
Yeah, this is shaping up to be one of the great, at least pregame looks really good matchup. I'll be honest with you. I think obviously Wagler's going to be under some fire because he's going to be playing against a guard duo that's really good. And then I think if we see Tomislav of tonight, the old Tomislav, and if Big Z can kind of stay out of some of the issues he's had, then Illinois, has some firepower. But I think a lot of it, if Merkovic plays well, I think David is the guy who might be the under-heralded one because, as I was talking with Connor tonight, we're killed it in the Big Ten season. But yet, again, he quietly, like Wagler, he's quiet, but he ends up with 15 and 9. There have been a lot of Illini power forwards over the decades who don't put up those type of numbers in a Big Ten game.
No, they don't. But you go to Purdue, here's what I'm doing. I'm hunting the Purdue guards. They're good, but they're small. Mm-hmm. They're small. They just are. You have to take the crowd out of the game early. And if Illinois is shooting the ball well and defend, I'm telling you, and make free throws and just do the good things. You can't. What you don't want to have is Illinois somebody gets in foul trouble, like Ken Wagler. I know we all know how good. We all know and understand how good Braden Smith is. We get that, but I don't have a worry in my mind about Ken Wagler. Mackey is not going to get to him. That kid is cool, calm, and collective. He's just good at what he does. But I would love to see them spread the floor and let him. If that's who's guarding him, if I'm Matt Painter, I wouldn't. Typically, you think, the old school method, the 2 best players guard each other. That doesn't happen very often, because sometimes teams want to preserve the legs of the best player. I was concerned about that tonight with Stojakovic, but he came out and his shot, ladies and gentlemen, somebody said something to him. Could have been Papa Stojakovic. I don't know, but that hitch didn't look like it has the whole season. His shot looks quicker. It looked more fluid than it has the entire time since he's been at Illinois.
Yeah, maybe we need to say Papa preach because when your dad shoots like that, you need to just go out and have dad show you what he's doing, because that is a key. And of course, one of the things is, I believe, wasn't it Fagbemi who was told who Underwood said was the best athlete he's ever coached or something like that. So he does have some bounce. There is absolutely, positively nothing wrong with that statement. And as we go, there was a few things, we have I thought this was interesting. 7-foot Lucas Johnson. That's an interesting way to look at it, because Big Z is starting to hit the 3 occasionally. And then you're also seeing he is becoming that hustle guy that you don't expect out of a 7'2" guy, kid. You expect your 7'2" guy to kind of point to guys our size and tell us to hustle, not the other way around.
Like I told you, if the people out there listening, if you ever get an opportunity to go to a game and they're signing autographs, I don't care who's sitting at the table, go find that kid. He is worth the price of admission just to have a conversation with him. He's becoming one of my favorite players. I was so frustrated the other day thinking about him as a player. I wish he was a freshman and he could stick around for a while. The kid is living his best life, and he brings something different to the table. You know, I think back to the Iowa game. Iowa made 3 threes in a row, and he knocks down two consecutive threes and then smiles, and he'll say something sarcastic to kids. If you think it's a fluke that players are always in his ear and picking on him, it's not, because he is the biggest talker on the Illinois basketball staff. I'm telling you.
So there's a little Coleman Hawkins in him?
Oh, my goodness, without a doubt. And I like it, though. I'm here for it. I think that's great. I think the team needs it. And again, I mean, and tonight it brought out some of the best in Maryland. I mean, okay, let's think about it. He throws 2 elbows. You think after the first one you learn that Maryland throws another one or throws 2. That's not a fluke, ladies and gentlemen. That was done intentionally. And then they go to the bench and they try to pretend that they didn't do it, knowing there's cameras everywhere. I mean, if you go to wipe your nose in Champaign or in college athletics now, you can be seen, which we've seen at the football game the other night. You can be seen. They'll show anything. So they just need to be careful with that.
Yeah, I would thank God it weren't around the 80s, because I'd have had like 7 fouls by the start of the second quarter. I mean, my whole game was that. So, let's see. I think these are always interesting. I gotta be honest with you. You got 15 guys on a basketball team, so you do have players. And the funny thing is every time Illinois fans are annoyed, like Trey White gave up on us, you know, that type of thing. When he left, I heard all these people say, "Well, Trey White didn't," you know. He kind of gave up a team last year at one point, and you hear about different players as they leave, and yet it seems like when a player leaves Illinois, there's always plenty of people who want him on their team. So I tend to look at it as you look at Jason Jackson. I look at let's just see how he plays, because Illinois has a history of guys who play in their 4th or 5th year who get pretty good as a big. And so, you know, let's see how he does over time, because I think, you know, if you got 15 guys anyway, if somebody is content to wait his turn and keep improving his skills, you want to get old and stay old. And at some point you'll be glad you've got a 7-footer who's out there, who's got some experience, has played through games like this. He's a redshirt freshman right now. I look at Brian Leonard at the end of his career. Archibald is probably the biggest one, because people hated him his soft freshman and sophomore year, and then as a senior, it's like he was just fantastic to have on the court. So I don't have a problem. Let these guys, you know, like I said, you're not going to until you get the cabal that Duke has, and you can read about it in the Wall Street Journal. You know, they've got a group of folks who pay for those players. Until you get that group together, you're going to have guys who are developing, and it's nice to have 1 or 2 of those older guys around to help out with the younger crew. I don't know how you feel on that, Ked.
Well, here's the deal. I've talked to Jason Jackson. I watched him play in a tournament his senior in high school. Here's what he said to me. So for the people who are questioning it, Mike, you're 100% right. It's like you're reading my mind. This kid came to Illinois. He said to me personally, he knows he will not be an effective Big Ten player until he's a junior in college. So, but you need guys like that. What do you think? You got 15 guys on the roster. Do you really think you're going to get 15 Thomas Lavi-Visic or 15 Andrej Stojakovic? It's not going to happen. You're not going to fill a roster with a bunch of guys. Somebody's going to have to sit. And unfortunately, this kid is bought in. He's at the University of Illinois because, one, his parents love the university and they're fans. They grew up. And it's not like he's hurting him. This kid came in tonight in the first half because Zonomir decided to play Rocky Balboa tonight, you know, and throw a couple jabs at people. So you're lucky that you have him. the way I look at it. So, and he's not playing 30 minutes a game. And if he deserves to be on the court, then you put him on the court. But this is a guy who's there for the right reasons, and I have no problem with the role that he's playing right now. Will he be great by the time he's a junior? I don't know. But again, you have a guy who's bought into your program who just wants to put that uniform on, and he's gotten bigger. All the kids, and I'll tell you, another guy's gotten bigger. Don't laugh. Go back and look at the first game of the year compared to now. Look at Zonomer and watch his arms.
Yeah.
They have we can talk about Fletcher. We're not going to do that right now, but I'm telling you right now, honestly, I don't know what the future holds for the kids. He's not going to be an all Big Ten type player, but if he goes in and he can play defense and rebound, make layups and make at least one free throw, you know what? You get 6-8 minutes out of him a game that buys you to halftime when a player like Zonomer is in foul trouble or Tommy, so be it.
Yeah, I got to be honest. Like I said, I tend to be a little more patient on those. And again, if you have a couple years, you need 15 players for practice purposes. Illinois has weird freaking injuries every year, whether it's the broken hand, whether it's the broken wrist, whether it's whatever happened to KJ, whether it's, I can go through a list of that, tonsillitis, tonsillectomy. You need the bodies. And if they don't pan out, no big deal. You let them go play at the lower level for a year or two, and hopefully you wish them the best. And we've seen people also leave and have good careers post Illinois. So, again, I tend to say that, give it a whirl, because you would like to be able to find the occasional diamond in the rough. Keaton Wagler is certainly proof of that. But again, I don't have a problem if it's a guy like that playing all the time, then I'm a little scared, but he's not playing all the time or even any of the time. My money is that he probably won't play any much basketball, but what do I know? Ked, you got any thought on that?
I asked, and I talked to him about a month and a half ago, and just checking in with him. And every time I mentioned it, he never commented on it. So that leads me to believe that that's probably not going to happen. And for the people out there listening to this podcast, thank you for doing this. He'll be playing some
football next year, though, won't he, Ked?
Oh yeah. Oh, most definitely. Colin Boswell update for you guys. He'll be having surgery tomorrow. On his hand. If you look tonight, we all saw the same thing. He had a soft cast on his hand. Hopefully the surgery will go well. They can get him back on the court in 4 weeks. That's going to be kind of pushing it. But if they can get him back, that'd be great. But again, he's going to have surgery, I think, tomorrow on it.
Yeah, and I got to be honest with you. Look, every team gets injuries. Illinois is going to have to play through this. I think the players probably are less upset about it because they know injuries happen. You don't want it to happen to him, but Illinois is going to have to play through it. They're going to have to get a high seed. And if I was a player, I would be more concerned about getting him back, not like in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, but getting him back in time to get him back in the groove for the NCAA tournament. Beyond
they're going to need that. Yeah, you know what? They're going to need that. And, I talked to his father a little bit. They took the high road, which I'm not surprised about because they're great people. They're concerned about the team. I was just blunt. I'm like, yes, the team's important, but I'm concerned about your son. And the reason I said that to him, you came back. You went to Arizona and you came back, and you could have left and you could have went anywhere you wanted to, and you came back. I want to see this play out well for him. I want to see him, I'd like to, at least for his sake, and I'm starting to believe a lot more than what I had, that this team could potentially get to a final 16 or final 8. I think the key is the seeds. I've been telling people that a lot lately. I think there's a lot of teams out there that can win it, but for me personally, I like to see Illinois get a 3 seed. I think if Illinois gets a 3 seed, I think they can make a good run. But I think if they get a 4 or 5, those matchups become tough because if you look at the college basketball top 15, top 18 teams, there's a lot of talent out there. And Illinois plays some of those teams. Your chances, obviously, with common sense, you have a better chance of winning if you're a 3 seed. But I would love for them to stay on there. That's why I said if they can pull out a win at one of those 3 stops, I think, and then you get we get Colin Boswell back, and he doesn't miss a beat, and he's still out there doing the same thing because he's going to be able to guard no matter what. So that's the big thing. So getting him back, and I don't think the NCAA will punish Illinois if he comes back. But if he's out for the season and they say he's done, then I think that could hurt their seeding.
Yep. And is Tigers out for the season? Getting pretty late.
Yeah, I would be surprised. I mean, you know what? I'm not a part of the staff, but let's be honest. What would be the point of him coming back right now? I mean, I didn't think personally with the knee injury, with the rotation being set the way it was, from a selfish standpoint, yeah, it'd be great. But for him personally, I wouldn't risk it. And right now, he's, according to Coach Underwood during yesterday's press conference, he has a groin injury. What is the point of that? I mean, because you get him to come back and he gets hurt, you know, or you lose the first round of the tournament, then you lose a whole year of eligibility. I hope he come back. I sure do. And I'm praying that they can keep Andre Stojakovic back, because remember the jump that Terrence Shannon had from his first year to his last year? I'm telling you, if I'm on that coaching staff, that's my sell to them.
Yeah, and that's an obvious one, I think, that would look really good, because if Stojakovic comes back a year, especially when you see, you know, he gets a chance to work on that three, you know, we can see he gets to the basket as good as anybody. I mean, maybe not Terrence Shannon Jr., but not many people are Terrence Shannon Jr. But if he gets the outside shot falling, now you're talking a guy who's top 15 draft pick. And I just think you definitely want that. Now, wait a minute. We got a guy in a car. So this is a lot like watching Seinfeld's podcast, where he comedians in car, and Brad looks at himself as a modern day comedian. So Brad, what were your thoughts on tonight's game? We thought that this would be a closer game, and I thought they kind of beat the doors off of a Maryland team and really probably gave a lot of film for other teams to look at on how to take this team apart.
Yeah, they did a really good job. I thought, you know, the game was actually more of a blowout than the final score indicated, because Maryland ended on an 8-0 run against the Illinois Subs. But overall, you know, you got a 27-point lead there with 2 minutes to go. So it was very I thought Illinois played well. They defended. They after the first initial stretch, I mean, you think about their defense up until the 2-minute mark, from about the 15-minute mark of the first half to the 2-minute mark of the end of the game, was really, really good. They really locked them down. Coit hit his first 3 and then missed the next 7. And, you know, again, the offense is the offense. And Underwood talked about that postgame. They can score. They have a lot of different weapons. And without Boswell, they probably miss him less on offense, obviously, than defense. And they can still score on offense. But they stepped up defensively. I thought Stojakovic, you know, two-way Andre, did a great job defensively, kind of being that stopper. You saw good performances on the glass from people. I thought, you know, Merkovich had a good defensive game as well. So there were some definite improvements, and you know they're getting there, and they're going to have to figure out a way to play against one of the best offensive teams in the country on Saturday. So this is a good kind of test run for what they can do.
Yeah, and that's why the game for that game. Are you going in that direction, Brad?
What's that? I'm sorry, I missed you, Mike.
We're having technical difficulties. We'll get that question answered.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
But yeah. I'm wondering if you were heading over to Purdue
on Saturday. Yeah. So it should be great. Purdue's a great arena, right? I mean, Mackey's one of the toughest places to play, and but we've seen that if you can guard them, you can beat them. And Iowa State showed that, but that's easier said than done.
Well, I was saying before you got on the air about Illinois' offense. because Purdue has to guard them, and I'm not sold on because they lost to UCLA that you're going to expect a 40-point outing. Illinois is a good basketball team too. They can score. They've been tested. This is one of the reasons that you play the non-conference schedule. There's so many key factors of little things, coaching, X's and O's, taking advantage. This is one game I really think you need to take advantage of mismatches. And if there was one game on the schedule that it stinks that Colin Boswell is not here, it is going to be against Purdue. No one's stopping Braden Smith anyway, but you hope Colin Boswell can slow him down a little bit. Stojakovic, welcome to Big Ten basketball, because I think, having him on him would be great. I'd hope he doesn't get in foul trouble falling for the fake, because he's mastered that. He really has, but they're going to need another performance. They need a Superman performance out of somebody like they got of Stojakovic tonight, I think, in order to win up there. If not, two guys that are putting up 20 each.
Yeah, I think the other thing, like we talked about, that third guy is probably what we need. You think you probably feel like you can bet on Wagler, and this will be a great test because Wagler's going to have to be out there against two good guards. If Wagler and Stojakovic bring it, then you just need one of the Ivasiches and or Merkovich, and all of a sudden you're cooking with gas from an Illinois standpoint.
Mike, I don't know if you guys remember, and Brad and our listeners, Michael Jordan made the comment, you're not going to win games with one star. You're not. You'll be competitive with two. But if you have three guys, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, and Dennis Rodman, you have a chance to win it all. You're right. You have to have three guys step up and be really, really good and special. Most teams don't have that, but if you can get production out of all three guys, whoever those three players are, I'm not naming the three guys, it has to be for Illinois. But my point is, Jordan is right. You can score 50 points a game by yourself, but if you're not going to have a good supporting cast that can defend, rebound, or, score points and put points on the board, you're not going to win very many games. And like Brad Sturdy just mentioned, this team can score, and there's a lot of guys who can put the ball in the basket.
Yeah. Brad, is there any we've been asked if Purdue's going to play a zone, which I don't think is going to happen, but just wondered what your thoughts were.
Going to happen.
No, Purdue doesn't play a lot of zone. So you're going to see them play man, but that is an intriguing point, because I think that, so on that point, I do think that, matchups will dictate some of what happens. Illinois can play two bigs some against Purdue, so you can see Big Z and Tommy, as long as Z doesn't get any silly fouls or whatever, against Kaufman Wren and Oscar Clough. So you can play two bigs against them. I think Braden Smith's obviously a really difficult guard, and Fletcher Lawyer's really good coming off screens, but so I think matchups will dictate, but I'm not sure they have a guy who can guard Stojakovic either. Wagler, Braden Smith can't guard Keaton Wagler, consistently. He's got too much size and so forth. So, it's going to be interesting to see how Purdue matches up as well. And then the other thing is, Purdue playing man-to-man, you're going to see, I think there is more opportunity for, like, Petrovic to be a factor in that game than there was tonight. And so sometimes, and I asked Brett about that, how much matchups dictate and things. I think he said he liked what he saw tonight, but I obviously he did. But you look at Maryland, they have some length, they have some size, but they don't have like a big guy. But they have, forwards are good sized, and 6'7", 6'8" guys, 6'6", whatever. But I do think, you might see a situation where Petrovic gets a few more minutes against Purdue, because they'll need to score a little better. Or they may need, that kind of burst off the bench for a stretch. You may see a stretch where you play a lot more Tommy and Z together. So I think those are all possibilities, and we just got to figure it out. I do think that one of the keys will be who gets in foul trouble. Both of these teams have people like Wagler, Smith, whoever it is, are very good at drawing fouls. And if one of those two guys for the other team is in foul trouble, that's going to make it really hard on that team to get that win. So I think that's going to, it's sad, but that's going to play a big part is what happens with the foul trouble and how that works. So, and I do like Illinois' front court, their depth in the sense that you can play Z or Tommy, or, you can play Merck, you can play Ben at the 4, you can do some different things. But the guard with Boswell out, they don't have a ton of depth there, and so I'd hate to see Brandon Lee have to play 15 minutes in Mackey Arena for against Purdue. So that would be a tough situation to throw him into.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a challenge when you look at you look at Mackey and you go historically back since the 80s. When Katie started. You're not gonna shoot more free throws than Purdue. Not there, and you, like I said, you can go through Big Ten seasons far back as you want. I mean, it probably happens once a decade that a team comes into Mackey, shoots more free throws. So Illinois is going to have to bank on the fact that you're going to have to play better defense because you're not going to get the whistle there.
Yeah, no question. I agree with you. The other thing is. The matchups are going to be intriguing because Purdue does play their bench some. They do. Painter likes to play more guys probably than Underwood does. That's kind of a different play style of matchups and kind of keep his guys fresh or whatever. He kind of does that, but it'll be interesting to see how much he's able to do that against the Illinois guys because they do have Illinois has a lot of guys that are really difficult matchups. Yep. So if it's an intriguing game. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. Can't ask for much more than that. And then, but I thought tonight, I don't. The one thing about it is we always say, again, I don't love the way they play zone offense, but all they do is score. You know what I mean? Like they score at such a high level. It's like, sometimes you don't like the offense because it's just they run. It's an ISO. It's a high ball screen and a pick and pop. That's all they really do, and just keep it simple. But they execute so well that they score. So it may not be what we're used to, but again, it's effective. I mean, they just ran a 1-3-1 against that 2-3 zone with a guy in the high post and two guys on the wing, one guy running the baseline, and they just kind of threw it around, pass it around, go inside, kick it out, shoot a three. Turn and shoot a little floater in the lane. It was like almost nonchalant offense against that zone. There was really it wasn't difficult at all. And so I think that it's funny. I don't think they're going to see that many zones moving forward. The only teams that play zone usually are teams that just can't play. You know what I mean? That aren't very good.
They can't match up.
Yeah, can't match up. And Purdue's going to play man-to-man. Michigan State's going to play man-to-man. So I don't know. It's a lot of fun to see the chess match in the game, and I think Matt Painter's one of the best at getting things the right way. The one thing about Purdue, though, Braden Smith also has a little bit of an issue. He's not 100% healthy. I don't think Trey Kaufman-Ran is healthy either. So,
will be Saturday.
So we'll see.
They're playing Illinois. They'll all be healthy Saturday, I'm sure. I'm just kidding.
That's the way it tends to work, right?
Yeah. So, Brad, switching gears, we did have somebody question what Illinois is going to do on the defensive line. Obviously, they had another win on the defensive line. Are we thinking from either of you guys? I'm assuming that is not done, and that there will be more depth coming.
Well, I think there are 4 guys that have visited Illinois that haven't committed anywhere yet. So. Okay. Obviously, those are guys that they're going to get. I think they need another guy who can come in and play and be a part of in the rotation immediately. I like the 2 guys they just brought in. Those guys both have a chance to contribute in the front line. They probably don't have a star on the. I think Janke's good. He's solid. They probably don't have a star. They don't have a Johnny Newton. There's no Keith Randolph, et cetera, et cetera. But if you can get some solid pieces and with the secondary guys that can, they can find a way to get some pressure, stop the run. Really, they have a chance to be solid defensively. But they need a couple more pieces that can be, plug and play guys that can come in and be in the rotation immediately.
Well, I think they need to improve the defensive line, but let me ask you guys this, and I'm not stretching here when I say this. You know what? We can look at the rosters, and I think I put something on Twitter the night of the college football championship. What if the guys that Brett Bielema brought in turn out to be excellent guys like what Indiana has? Because they're not all young. and there's some talent there, and you can develop it like Signetti. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, so I'm not going off I'm not going off my rocker here. But if some of these guys are put in better situation and coaching is a little bit different, you may be able to see some things out of some of these players. So I'm not going to me personally, I'm not just going to say, well, these players can't come in and compete, because we don't know that. And as a matter of fact, I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't think Indiana has a 5-star player on their roster at all. And I think the starting quarterback, who was Mr. Heisman, he said he was a 2-star recruit coming out of high school. I need to verify that. So we'll see. I believe that the staff will. I know they know. We know as reporters and gurus that they need help on the defensive line, linebacker, safeties, whatever the case may be. They know it too.
Well, and I think one of the things that's really challenging about the transfer portal is that you rank the guy by what he played in high school, if it's a good transfer portal landing or not. But the bottom line is and Brett Bielema's been big about this. He would rather get a guy moving up, with some experience moving up, than somebody who's sat on a bench somewhere for a year or two. So, I think that potential, which is the French word for you ain't done doo-doo yet. I think that potential versus what a guy's done on the field is important. And certainly Indiana proved that if you select guys who are capable of moving up, then all that experience becomes very valuable. So I think when we I'm not saying us, but when some of these companies like ESPN that rank transfer portal, I think they have almost too much emphasis on the high school ranking, when many times there's other things involved. Brad, you've been doing this for a long time. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Oh, I think that's definitely true. For example, the kid from Jacksonville State was interesting because he had a breakout year this year in 2025, and he had 4.5 sacks, which would have been second on Illinois. Yeah. So yeah, and that's from basically I think they're going to play him at the nose. So if you get a nose tackle, a DT nose tackle that can get 4.5 sacks, that's huge. I mean, that would be huge. I mean, but I think the big thing is finding is he 300 plus pounds? Can he stop the run? Can he hold his own? I think those are all questions that'll be answered as we get into it. So there'll be guys that are higher. I thought you kind of look at some of the guys that that they've plucked, and some of that was Lovey having some good guys. Some of it's been Bielema as well. But I mean, a lot of these guys were not highly rated kids that turned out in this. Look at the Illinois guys in the NFL. I mean, Devin Witherspoon and Chase Brown, Sidney Brown. I mean, not these are not they're not guys who were power 4 guys out of high school, but down the road they become that. And so you never know how kids are going to develop. That's why you want to have a lot of options, I think, on the defensive line, because and then somebody's going to emerge. And if somebody emerges and it catches lightning in a bottle, who knows? Maybe you got a guy who's going to be really good. You just don't know how it's going to play out. But I do love their secondary. Got to talk to Xavier Scott tonight. I really think with him and Juice Fillmore and Juice Clark and all these guys, they got some great names, first of all. But anyway, So you got some corners who've come in and guys that can play, that can cover. Not to mention the freshmen coming in, like the Hankins kid. Some really talented corners. And so now when you have a guy, think about how good, I know I guess I'm going off topic here, but anyway, we talked about, think about how many times Indiana rushed 3 or rushed 4 and dropped 7 or 8 in coverage. They did it all night long.
Illinois fans mad, right?
It would drive them crazy. But you know what they did then? They tackled extremely well, and they closed on the ball so well on the outside. And they're not afraid to play man. They're not afraid to play zone. They know what they can do. And I think if you have the secondary, it might open up some different blitz packages, because they know they have guys who can cover, who can not get beat over the top repeatedly or whatever, and not give up big plays. And so if you can blitz and then make them throw a 5-yard pass and then come tackle, you're fine. But if you blitz and then they throw it 30 yards over your head and they score a touchdown, it's not good.
Yeah,
So,
and isn't that how Seattle's making their money? Because they got a bunch of guys who fly in the secondary, tackle like linebackers, and can cover people, like Devin Witherspoon, which gives your defensive line a whole new lease on life.
yeah, and they play a lot of zone too. And the other thing is like they run some zone blitz action. Illinois can do that too, and where they can drop one of those edges. And I don't know how much they'll do that with Brown and Barna, but maybe other guys. And they can do some different things, and you have some guys that can cover, and we'll kind of see what happens. But there are a lot of options, and that they can use, and I'm bullish on the secondary. I really like it. I like the continuity of having Clark and Scott and Bailey back. I mean, I like that, and I love the talent of the young guys, and I like a couple of guys that brought in the portal too, who can come in and compete right away. And that's what it's all about, is finding guys that fit your system that you can use and can be effective with what you're doing. So, yeah, I think it's good. Now, defensive line, definitely they've got some question marks, and they got to figure that out. They do have, the way I concoct it, they still have three more spots that they could fill, that they could use, and that there are some guys who might be there. And even like now, you could see a guy who enters the portal after the spring if he's going to graduate in May. So you could still have a guy graduate and then portal, I believe. But so that can happen. But now you still have guys who are in the portal right now who visited Illinois who haven't decided, and they could get enrolled later. By the way, everyone should read Matt Stevens' story on Xavier Scott's returning. He actually talked a little bit, I believe, to Aaron Henry after the thing too, but the whole story about how they found out he was returning because he kept his apartment. I mean, it's just a fantastic story, and that's how Aaron Henry found out, was talking to his landlord, or hearing from his landlord. So,
that's great stuff on IlliniGuys.com. Of course, you can subscribe there for just 27 cents a day. So, and then that helps us pay for Brad and Matt's gas as they have to drive all over the place, or sometimes fly. And we don't want Brad's arms to get tired, so we prefer him to go in a plane. Brad, when the last thing I think I'm just going to throw out here is we're going to have a halftime coverage for sure. We'll have a post-game coverage for Purdue, and depending on the network connection that Brad can get inside the loud Mackey Center, we might even do a little bit of a pregame show. But we will definitely have coverage from the Purdue game, so we would invite people. And, of course, the more that you guys can share our stuff, if you see a clip or you see a link to a show, the more you can share it on your social media. Give us a follow on our social media. It really helps us. And anytime you can give us a 5-star review, say some nice words about Ed on a review, that helps us as well with our friends at Apple and the other podcast purveyors on there. But we will be back on Saturday. It should be a lot of fun. There's no guarantees you're going to win on the road at Mackey, but this Illinois team matches up pretty good with Purdue. Now, can they play in a pressure-packed arena like that? We'll find out, but I think this team's a little tougher than maybe the team that we had last season, and I think we're seeing that play out. So, Ked, your final thoughts, and then Brad, yours, and then we will let people go and enjoy their evening.
Final thoughts, workmanlike effort. You got the W today. A lot of players stepped up today. I mentioned, when we started the podcast, my MVP was Stojakovic because of his defense. He looked like the player that Illinois knew they were going to get when they brought in. Brad Underwood made a joke about Caden Wagler going 1 for 9, but Mike, you mentioned his other stats, how well he did in those areas. Saturday's a big game. For the first time in a long time, I'm telling you, this year, I really believe Illinois can go to Mackey and win. Things just have to go right, and that is possible. They've won 8 games in a row, and my memory serves me correctly. The stats that I've received, I don't think Brad Underwood's done that since he's been in Illinois ever. So this is a good team. We can all nitpick and not like certain players and who's playing and who's not. Enjoy the ride.
Brad?
Yeah, I think this ties Underwood's longest win streak at Illinois of 8 games. So this would, if they win Saturday, it would be the longest win streak he's had since he's been at Illinois. I do think the big thing is Illinois just took care of business tonight, did what they needed to do. I thought they adjusted after the first 5 minutes defensively, understood what they had to do, and their positioning was much better as the game went on. And just, closing out properly, scouting reports, reading, attacking the right side of a right-hand driver, the left side of a left-hand driver, the little things, the subtleties that they really were better at. And I think maybe they just didn't have the crutch of having a guy like Boswell who could just, be a defensive stopper. And I thought that was really good. I thought Stojakovic was good, but I thought overall they were some of the guys that hadn't been great defensively were better tonight. So that's a positive looking forward. And they're becoming more and more vocal. And that's the first thing I notice when you get down close to the core. Like, I get to sit right there, which is a great perk, but you can hear them talking more than you could, like, for example, the Nebraska game. You can definitely hear more communication defensively. There's fewer broken plays, missed assignments, things like this. So they get the ultimate test on Saturday against arguably the best offense in the country that is in Illinois. So this should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. So we'll be there. So tune in. We would love to have more people join the Illini Guys universe. We will be back on Saturday. And until then, go Illini.